Hello guys, welcome to my first ever video in YouTube. Let me just tell you what I will be teaching in this channel. We will learn to build websites with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React.js and many more along the way. We will also build a lot of cool and interesting projects in this channel, so subscribe to this YouTube channel to stay tuned. For now, in this video, I will teach you very basics of web development, that is HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is not a programming language. It is a markup language and it is written in tags. Let me just show you that in action. I am using Visual Studio Code as a code editor, and you can download that from this website called code.visualstudio.com for macOS, Windows and Linux. Open an empty folder in VS Code. Create a new file called index.html. HTML is written in tags inside an opening and a closing angle bracket. Let me just show you what I mean. Let's start with the very important tag, the HTML tag. Open an angle bracket, type HTML and close the angle bracket. You can see my code editor has automatically closed the HTML tag, and this is how you do it, with a /. This is the HTML tag, and here is where all your other code goes. The very next code after HTML you will often see is the head tag. Head tag doesn't do anything on the UI, but you can use some other tag inside of it which is very useful, like the title tag. Title tag allows you to change the title of your website. As usual, you open an angle bracket, specify the tag name and close it. And inside this, you can specify whatever title you want for your website. A title simply means this text you see over here, which appears above the tab. And here I will give you something like my website, or you can give anything you want, like my blog or anything. I'll be using a VS Code extension called Live Server to serve my HTML page in the browser as soon as I save it without reloading. The extension is called Live Server, and you can download it from here in the extensions section of VS Code. Search for Live Server, and this is the extension I was talking about. You can install this and right click on the HTML page, and here you will see the option called Open with Live Server. Just click on it and you can see a new tab opens in my browser with the HTML file, and you can see our title already shows up. The next tag is the body tag. A body tag simply means the body of the website, which is this white screen you see over here. Here is where all your elements of the website goes. Elements just mean all the UI you see in your website. A button, a input field, a heading, a image, video, it can be anything. Whatever you see in the website is called the elements. Now the first thing we will be using is a heading. Now how do we write a heading? Headings are written with the H tag, and you can see VS Code already gives you bunch of options to autocomplete, and you can just hit enter on it and it will automatically open and close the HTML tag for you. There are 6 types of heading tags, that is H1, then comes H2 and H3, so on till H6. And I will show you all that in action. Inside the heading tag is where your heading goes. I'll just write why you should learn web development, and you can see as soon as I save it, My website reloads and you can see this bold and very large text, large heading in my website. Now what is the difference between H1 and H2? Let's see. I'll just copy paste the same heading to the H2 tag and just save it. You can see H2 is a bit smaller than the H1, and same goes with the H3. It's a lot more smaller. Let's see H4, H5, and at last H6. You can see this is H1 and this is H6. H6 is the smallest of all. I'll be deleting all this, don't need that anymore. A next tag you will often use is the P tag. P stands for a paragraph. Now once you have written a heading, you might need a paragraph where you can describe what the context of your website is. A very small context maybe. I'll be just writing here like, how is websites created? Doesn't match the heading, but it's okay for now. You can see a small text appear. This is how you write a paragraph in HTML. A paragraph can be as long as you want. The next tag you'll be learning is the image tag, and obviously it is used to show up image. Another shortcut you can use in VS Code is just type img. You can just click on this or hit enter. You can see some other text also appeared in this, like src and alt. These are called attributes. An attribute is nothing but some data that goes into this tag. These are two compulsory attributes for an image tag. Attributes can go into any tag, like a P tag as well, like it has an attribute like class, ID, or anything like that. That is a little bit more advanced HTML, which will not be going through in this video. You can also see the image tag didn't automatically close because there are two types of HTML tags, that is opening and closing tags and self-closing tags. And image is a self-closing tag. Now what do I mean by self-closing tag? A self-closing tag simply means that you cannot add some more tags or data inside that tag. Like in here, you open a P tag, add some data inside it and close it. Image tag doesn't support that. Now how do you close it? You self-close the tag by just adding / before closing angle bracket like this. Now saving this obviously doesn't show any image because we haven't set any image right now. The src attribute means the source of the image. Here we will specify path where our image is stored. To specify a path for an image which is in current folder is to write a dot and a / and you can see the contents which are there in your current folder. To go to the previous folder, you need to put double dot and / and you can see the folder which are above this folder. I have all my images in the current folder, so I use single dot and a /. And if this menu doesn't appear automatically, you can just hit Ctrl space. And here is the image I want to insert in my website. Just hit enter or type the whole file name with the extension. This alt attributes simply means any error occurs while loading image. The data you specify in alt will show up. I'll just say thinking. As soon as I save, you can see this image shows up. Now this image is very large and takes most of the space. Now how do I make it small? Image tag supports another attribute called width. and obviously it specifies the width of the image, and this accepts a number. I'll simply type 250 and save. You can see now the image is lot more smaller. 250 means 250 pixels. You can just hit F12 and open the debuggers tool. Click on this arrow icon and hover over this image, and you can see the width and height of this element, that is 250 and 375. Similar to width, there is another attribute called height, and that too specifies the height of the element. You can see the height of the element is 250 right now. Let me just stick to width for now. You can play around with this as you want. Now we have inserted a heading, a paragraph, an image. What next? You might have seen lists in a website, maybe a to-do list, a requirements list. It can be anything, a list item. How do you do that in HTML? Well, there are two types of list items. One is ordered list and another one is unordered list. Let's see ordered list first. Ordered list tag is written in OL, is written like this, OL tag. OL stands for ordered list, and inside this tag we get another tag called LI. LI stands for list, and here is where all your list data goes, and you can write as many of lists as you want. Before this, let me just add a heading, a subheading with H2 or H3 maybe, saying what skills are needed for web development, and inside this LI your list item goes. The skills needed for web development are HTML. Write another LI tag. This will be second item in your list, that is CSS. Another LI tag which will be third item in your list, that is JavaScript. The fourth one and the last for now. There are a lot more for web development, but for now I will write only 4, that is interest. And here you see our list item with numbers. The difference between ordered list and unordered list is this number you see over here. We haven't specified any number in our HTML tag, but it automatically appears for you because ordered list makes it possible. Now let's see on unordered list. Let me just add another subheading with H3 and say, where do I learn web development? And under H3 specify an unordered list. An unordered list, you might have guessed, is written with UL, and same as ordered list, you have LI tag inside it. It specifies list items, and inside this all your list data goes. You might have seen in website where when you click on some text, a new website opens or a new page of same website opens. And how do we do that? That is done with an anchor tag. Inside this list I will add a link where you can learn web development, and when you click it you will go to some other website. That is done with the anchor tag, and the anchor tag is written in A. It takes a compulsory attribute called href, and it takes link as a value to which you will be navigated when you click that text. Here I will give a link to YouTube, and inside this you can write some text or maybe another tag itself. When you click, it will take you to that website. I will simply add text YouTube, and you can see this link appears, and when you click this, YouTube opens. You can go back to your website. In the same way, you can add some other links like this. I will just copy paste, or what you can do is another Visual Studio shortcut called Control Shift and arrow down. It will copy these lines down, and here I will change the link to w3schools.com, and the text will be W3 schools. You can see this another list item appears with the link, and when I click that, W3 schools opens. Now you might want to open these websites in a new tab. So how do we do that? We do that by adding another attribute called target, and this takes a string as a value, and if you want that to open in a new tab, just add an underscore and type blank. What this will do is it will say the browser to open this website in a new tab. Here you go, it opens that website in a new tab, and this is how you do it. Let's add another li tag and then another anchor tag with href https://udemy.com, and enter the text you want to enter. Here you go, you can click this and the website opens in the same tab as you are in. Or what you can do is add an attribute called target and underscore blank if you want to open that in a new tab, and that opens that website in a new tab. Now the next tag you'll often use is the form tag. Now what does a form tag do? You can see an attribute automatically writes for you called the action attribute in form tag, and that is a bit more advanced HTML which we will not be learning right now, so you can ignore that. A form tag is used where you might want to group a lot of input elements together, like a sign up form, a sign in form, or any other form. Here is where our input field goes. Now for that, to input data from a user, we will specify a tag called input, and there are different types of input tags. We'll go through some of it, and you can see by default the type of tag is text, and input is a self-closing tag, which means you have to close the tag before you close the angle bracket, and this takes a compulsory attribute called a type attribute, and by default it is set to text. You can see as soon as I save it, the input field appears where I can type anything I want. Let me just give an heading for this called with the h1, maybe h2, saying sign up. This is not actually a sign up field. Now you might have seen a password input where you cannot see your password, which means you can see just a dot appearing on the input field. Now how do we do that? For that, we have another input of type password. Don't forget to close this tag. You can see even if I didn't close it, it works, but it is always preferred to close the tag. It is considered a good practice. You can see here, if I type anything, I cannot see it, and this is a password input. Since this is a sign up form, we will be using email and password. There is an input of type email where you can enter email, and I can type anything over here. But if I enter some wrong email and remove focus from it, you can see the box appears to be, the box border will be red, which means that I have inserted an invalid email. Let me enter a valid email, code with shashank@gmail.com, and you can see if I remove focus from it, the red border doesn't appear anymore because this is a valid email. Now there is another input of type button, and you can see over here the button appears. Now there is no text in it. It would be really nice if it had any text specifying what this button does. For that, you can write another attribute called the value attribute, and here inside the double quotes you can write whatever the value you want to show inside that, like say sign up. You can see sign up appears, and same goes for these two input fields. You can specify a value attribute to be a default value inside this input field, like say you need to just go and reload this, and you can see by default the value will be this. You can edit it later on. I will not specify any value for this. You can play around with some other input types and attributes by pressing control space inside this, and you can see a bunch of attributes which you can use in this tag. I will not be going through all of it because if I do, it will be a very lengthy video. Now it would be nice if these input field aligned vertically and not next to each other. We can add a line break using a tag called BR, and BR is a self-closing tag which stands for break. You can see now our input moved to the next line. We can do that over here also. I'll specify BR, and you can see now our button also goes to the next line. Now it would be nice if we give the user some hint what this input field is for. The input tag supports another attribute called the placeholder, and you can specify any text between this to specify what the input field does. And you can see here very light text saying email, which we specified over here. From this, the user understands that this input field is for entering email. Same goes for the password. Let's add a placeholder attribute and let's say password. You can see the password placeholder also appeared. Let's see another type of input, which is a checkbox. You might have seen this type of input in a lot of websites, and this is, you can, I'll just add a break over here also, and you can see a checkbox appeared here. You can check this value or uncheck it. Now it would be really nice if we tell the user what this checkbox is for. And as other input, this doesn't support a value like some text which will be displayed over here. You can see nothing displayed over here. We need to explicitly set a text saying what this checkbox is for, and we can do that with another tag which you'll use most often is called called the span tag, and inside this tag you can specify whatever data you want, whatever text you want to show in the UI of your website. Let me just write remember me. You can see this text appeared over here. Now you might say, why not use p tag instead of span tag? The difference between both tags are that this takes up the whole width. You can see p tag takes up the whole width of the parent element, whereas span tag takes up space as wide as its content is. Now there is no problem with using p tag over here, but might become a problem once your HTML grows, and the elements which take its whole width of the body is called block elements, and elements which take up only width of its content is called inline elements. Now I will not be using input as a button, but I will specify another tag called button itself, which is an opening and closing tag, and between this you can add any text which you want to display inside that button, like say sign up, and you can see the output is the same. Another thing I want to mention is in this type checkbox, if you want this checkbox to be checked by default, you can add an attribute called checked on it, and this doesn't take any value, like this, but it is just specified like that. And you can see if you just reload, the checkbox is checked by default. Let me do that again. You can see that. Now this is how you create a sign up form. You might have noticed one thing: as soon as I click on this button, my web page reloads. It is because the form is being submitted somewhere. In this case, nowhere. It is submitted nowhere, because if you remember, I have removed the attribute action from this. This reload happens because of this form element. If I remove this form element, this reload will not happen. Another tag which we didn't use here but you will use very often is called the div tag. Div means division. It is a block level element, and it is usually used to group up other elements. You will be using this a lot while creating a website. Here actually there is no use of it in this case, but you will use this very often. You can see this takes up the whole width of the body. You can specify anything inside this, maybe a new HTML, maybe another tag or anything like that. I will insert a video in this website with a video tag, and this is not a self-closing tag like image, but it takes attribute called src like in image and takes path of the video in your PC. You can see in my current folder there is a video called code with shashank.mp4. You can see that this appears, but it looks more like an image. You cannot play it or pause it or anything like that. Let me just close this. It is because you can either add controls of your own, like play, pause button, forward, rewind of your own, or you can keep it as default with the attribute called controls, and it doesn't take any value. It is just there simply like that. And you can see there is play button, pause button, forward, rewind, full screen, and other controls. You can play this. There you go. This is how you add a video to your website. And the reason this is not a self-closing tag is because it can take another tag inside this called source, which is a self-closing tag, and this can take another attribute called src and will take the source of the video. If you are doing this way, you can do it anyway, like this or this, it works same. Stick with any one and it works the same. The reason you might want to do like this is when you might want to add a backup video if in case this doesn't play. Like if some browser doesn't support MP4 video, you can specify another source tag with src attribute with some other path or some other video which might work. If this fails, it will go to the next source, that is this, and if this fails, it will go to the next source if any specified. This is why it is not an self-closing tag. You can add different source of video. That's all for today. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more interesting tutorials like this one.